All right, ladies and gentlemen, so it has been a while since I've made a video on this channel, and even though it's only somewhat relevant to what's going to talk about today, I have been engaging in PvP. I have like 6.8 rank right now, which is just terrible. Basically, like the first week, I gained like 3.2 ranks with like 86,000 honor. And then the next week, I was like, well, I only got like 0.8 of a rank level, rank 6 to go. So, 54K honor should be fine. But it was like AB weekend, and the other one was like Warsaw Gulch weekend. And then I basically screwed myself. So now I'm stuck trying to do it over again. So hopefully within like 24 hours, I'll have my rank 7 gear, and I can actually make some decent PvP video stuff. But anyways, what did I want to talk about today? So the whole reason why I came back was, this is going to require some preamble, but the whole reason why I came back into Season of Discovery is Blizzard basically encouraged me to come back by trying to put in PvP damage reductions and do PvP balancing, and I was like, okay. So if they're going to do that, I might as well support them and come back and play. More importantly, I wanted to see what proper Paladin PvP gearing looks like in Season of Discovery prior to the nerf, the damage reduction being in effect, right? And so far, I'm not super disappointed with the results. But I'm only rank 6 right now, so we'll have to see with rank 7. But here's where things get interesting. So I've been taking note of certain matchups that are absolutely one-sided for Paladin, and other matchups where it's not favored at all for Paladin, and then other matchups where it's basically like a couple of wet noodles slapping at each other. And I had the experience yesterday of getting into a great 1v1 fight with an elemental shaman, and the fight lasted like maybe 5 to 6 minutes or something like that. But I eventually and died, right? And the fascinating thing about it was I would take my eyes off this shaman every once in a while, and I would look back at him, and he'd go from having like 10% mana to having like 50% mana. And I'm like, what the hell is that? Did you mana pot? Like, what is going on here? And because I hadn't seen that before, and Lord knows I've made a shaman PvP guide on my server, so or on this channel before, so I should know what the heck is going on. Turns out that they changed Shamanistic Rage, and I didn't notice. I have no idea when they changed Shamanistic Rage into this thing, but they did. And after having thought about it for a few hours, I've decided that this is some of the worst game design I've ever seen in my entire life, especially in Classic WoW. Like, what the hell is this thing? Okay, so to begin with, I'm probably going to use the word retarded a hell of a lot in this video. Now, I need to take a moment to actually explain what I mean when I use this word, because there are better words in the English language other than just simply calling this design retarded. But those words are like antithetical, and there's another anth one, I can't remember. Yeah, antithetical, and I can't remember the other one. That's also a really big word. Oh yeah, anathema. Anathema and antithetical to what you're trying to do. A simpler word might be contradictory, but a more apt description would be, imagine you're trying to achieve something in your game design, and you're taking every opportunity you can to fuck it up. Meaning, when you should turn right, you're turning left. And this is a really bad thing, specifically when the thing you previously had was significantly better than the thing you've supposedly improved it into, right? So, for example, if your goal was X, and the current way Shamanistic Rage works is actually achieving X, but you want to achieve X better, but then you try to change Shamanistic Rage, And next thing you know, you're not achieving X anymore. You're failing at it. You used to be succeeding. Now you're completely failing at it. The technical terms would be contradictory, antithetical, anathema to what you're trying to do. But I'm just going to call it fucking retarded, because that's what it is. Your logic and critical thinking in your game design is so fucking bad that you're basically moonwalking backwards and you don't even fucking know it. All right, so let's start with how the premise and how bad this is. All right, so the premise, let's get this thing here. Boo, boo, boo. My personal premise, based upon what I've seen as a paladin, is that they're trying to balance shamanistic rage specifically against Seal of Martyrdom on the paladin side for area of effect raid-wide mana regeneration, and they're trying to do it specifically with a focus in a PvE environment, because clearly they don't give a flying fuck about PvP. All right? Now, how I know this is because they actually have been buffing Seal of Martyrdom over and over again. Like, there was a patch where they made Seal of Martyrdom go from giving, like, 30% of the damage it does to the paladin as mana regeneration to the raid to 133%. And that's probably the same patch where they changed Shamanistic Rage, thinking it would kind of balance itself out. But dear fucking God, did they screw it up. So the way Shamanistic Rage used to be written, if I recall correctly, is that in Season of Discovery, she used to basically... let me try to explain this. She would regenerate mana based upon how much attack power you have or how much spell power you have, whichever one was higher, right? And now it's just a percentage of your maximum mana bar, which is a really weird change. Okay, so let's talk about the points of failure. Let's talk about raid specifically before we go into PvP. Okay, so because this is how you know you done fucked up, right? Because even in the context of just raiding, you already fucked it up. So the first thing that's screwed up is that not every paladin can use or even will take Seal of Martyrdom. Specifically, only rep paladins in a raid will actually make use of Seal of Martyrdom. Holy paladins, you have to actually hit things. Seal of Martyrdom is entirely based upon the amount of damage you do to the target. Physical damage you do to the target, and then more succinctly, how much damage the paladin takes in return. And dear God, I just remembered I have to go showcase that. How much damage the paladin takes in return. So, deep holy paladins... or holy paladins can't make use of that at all, right? They don't have the gear, and Lord knows they're not going to go and waste their time hitting things. They can't both cast healing spells and beat the shit out of things at the same time for Seal of Martyrdom. Like, that just doesn't work. It's not the same as Shamans, which is just press button. Okay. And then tank paladins are going to be using Seal of Righteousness rather than Seal of Martyrdom, especially going forward. If they're not doing it now, then in the future they definitely will. When they get more and more critical strike chance, Seal of Righteousness just blows Seal of Martyrdom out of the water. It gets worse because in a raiding environment, there isn't really a limit. Let's get this going here. Let me show you one of the other weird scenarios here. So, Seal of Martyrdom, let's read it here real fast. Blah, 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 blah. You lose health equal to 10% of the damage inflicted. While the seal is active, your party and raid members within 40 yards each gain mana equal to 133% of the damage you take from this seal. Okay, so when I hit the target, a bit of damage that I do to the target is holy. That 54 is holy. That 6 mana that I just got back is based on the damage I took from Seal of Martyrdom. Okay, you follow me on this? Okay, cool. Now, watch this. Okay, watch Sacred Shield activate when he hits me. And now, well, watch me do it. You see these absorbs? You see how I'm not generating any mana right now? Okay? Seal of Martyrdom doesn't do damage to you when you have an absorb shield on you. And subsequently, because I'm not taking damage from the seal, I'm not actually, even though that absorb is me taking damage, my Sacred Shield is taking damage from the Seal of Martyrdom. So if I run up and I hit the gator... Okay, let's just turn that off real fast. Okay, there's the mana. Okay, yeah, mana. Okay, now the shield's up. Oh, yeah, you get the idea. So the point is, if there's any kind of damage-absorbing shield on you as the Paladin, Seal of Martyrdom isn't going to work. And that might be a problem going forward. I really don't know. Hard to say. Let's get back over to that. So that's another weird thing I need to keep an eye on with that stupid thing. But more importantly, what this means is I'm trying to list factors here. That's honestly only really a paladin for an issue for the tanking paladin specifically, because some tanking paladins, you might argue, will take Seal of Martyrdom, but then I'm also going to argue that he's going to get 1,000,001 bubble shields. He's going to have a Sacred Shield on him, which means he's only kind of half, sort of, kind of contributing with Seal of Martyrdom. It gets worse because most raids only take enough paladins for their buffs, and once you have enough paladins in the raid for their buffs, you don't really take any more paladins. Specifically, you don't want any more ret paladins. You would prefer holy paladins. That might be I might be out of my depth on that one in Season Discovery, so I might be wrong. But the point is that if you took 4 paladins to a raid, expect 2 of them to be ret at most. Okay, you follow me on that? It just is what it is, and those 2 ret paladins might be using Seal of Martyrdom. Big emphasis on the might. Because Seal of Righteousness, believe it or not, might actually be the fast one-hander, might be the DPS spec in the future. However, just every shaman and their dog can take Shamanistic Rage. There isn't even anything good in the raid in the Rune slot to take over it. The only thing that could possibly interfere with a shaman taking Shamanistic Rage is Earth Shield. But then only one Earth Shield can be on a target at a time. Therefore, only one of the healing shamans ever even needs to take it. And then they might just take Shamanistic Rage instead because it's that damn good. It's giving you infinite mana, basically. Yeah, so, right. So, less than half your paladins in a raid are going to have Seal of Martyrdom in effect. Whereas almost every single one of your shamans, with the exception of the tanking shaman, will have Shamanistic Rage. Which just means you've already fucked up in your game design. All right, this is important to note, because if you're trying to make raid-wide mana regeneration somewhat balanced between Alliance and Horde, you've already fucked it up by like a factor of 2, if not even a factor of 3. Why is this? Because there isn't really a limit on the amount of shamans you can bring to the raid at that point, whereas there is a limit to the amount of paladins you want to bring, because they start running out of things to heal, they start running out of their buffs become pointless after a while. You might as well just take more warriors or more rogues or something that brings more utility, or something that brings more buffs. There's almost no downside to taking more shamans. So at a minimum, a Horde raid will have twice the mana regeneration of what an Alliance can have, probably closer to like 3 times the amount of mana regeneration. Not comparable, not balanced whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. All right, cool. Let's move on. Number 2, SOM has serious opportunity costs behind her. She replaces any other seal you could have taken, as well as other very good runes in the slot. Shamanistic Rage has none of these issues. So we talked about this kind of. SOM is opportunity costed with any other seal you could possibly take. She's opportunity costed against Divine Storm. She's opportunity costed against Horn of Lordaeron. All right? That's kind of a big deal, especially since Horn of Lordaeron is a party buff. Right? If she's not a raid-wide buff, she is a party buff, which means that there's no way in hell, even if it's just so bad. So anyways, what am I trying to say here? Yeah, so from a PvE perspective, Shamanistic Rage is just going to, because it has no opportunity cost issues whatsoever, she's just going to give, whereas Seal of Martyrdom has massive opportunity costs, and you're just going to have, and less than half of the paladins in the raid can even use the damn thing. You've already failed at your game design, okay? It was an issue that I had to write down, even though it's nowhere near as big of an issue as the other ones, right? if that makes sense. Where it's literally like, let's say you have 5 healing shamans in your raid. Okay, well, one of them takes Earth Shield, and the other 4 take Shamanistic Rage. Why? Because there's literally no other rune for them to take worth a damn. Literally no other rune for them to take worth a damn. Whereas those 5 Holy Paladins, they can't take Seal of... They couldn't even use Seal of Martyrdom if they could take it. Because they're not that's not the gear they're wearing. Seal of Martyrdom is based entirely upon your attack damage. What else is there to say? Seal of Martyrdom. Even if they could take Seal of Martyrdom, they're kind of busy being spread out all over the raid, taking Horn of Lordaeron anyways, because it's a party. It's a huge party buff that you'd want to spread out as much as possible. So absolutely terrible, awful, no good game design even in PvE. In PvP, however, the issues become shockingly more dynamic. And this is where the word retard is really going to start flowing out of me, even though it really should be flowing out of me right here. Because you've already failed at your premise, right? Your premise is, let's try to balance raid-wide mana regeneration between paladins using Seal of Martyrdom and Judgment of Wisdom for the Horde. And they just completely fucked it up. Horde basically will have infinite mana out the wazoo, whereas if there's ever mana issues whatsoever for a alliance raid, it'll be because they just don't have enough rep paladins to use Seal of Martyrdom. The two are just not comparable, is what I'm saying. Like two to 3 times the mana regeneration Horde side, easy. Easy. All right, PvP. So the first thing to note is that this... One sec, let me cough. Seal of Martyrdom is well balanced for both PvE and PvP. So under raid conditions, Seal of Martyrdom gets to be used against a glorified target dummy, right? The boss is a glorified target dummy. The paladin, the rep paladin gets to min-max for his DPS, which means his Seal of Martyrdom effects are also min-maxed. PvP has none of that, right? You have to change your gearing significantly in PvP. You can't min-max your damage in PvP. Let's just read number 1. Paladins actually have to hit things to regain mana. Hitting things is harder to do in PvP than to just push a button, which is absolutely true, right? Especially in the high burst meta of Season of Discovery. Being a melee class is the quickest way to die under PvP circumstances. And then just having to hit targets, you can't min-max your gear, which means the Seal of Martyrdom mana regeneration for the Battleground is basically cut in half, just because your gearing has to change rather significantly. I'm being a little melodramatic, but not actually all that melodramatic. It's probably close to half. Probably closer to like a 40% reduction or something like that. But then when you factor in the fact that you actually need to physically hit something and everything in its dog is doing its best to avoid being hit by you as a paladin, and on top of that, you're just being bursted out of existence, and the mana regeneration just is not there in PvP the same way it is there in PvE. By no stretch of the imagination is anywhere near comparable. So Seal of Martyrdom for a raid-wide mana regeneration spell begins to all of her weaknesses begin to show in PvP in spades. Meanwhile, Shamanistic Rage, aka Push Button, has no such issues whatsoever. She works just as well in PvP as she does under raid conditions. She has no tying to gear whatsoever, which just means that the Horde, just like they don't have mana issues in PvE, they also don't have mana issues in PvP, whereas the Alliance are stuck basically playing classic retail as far as mana regeneration is concerned. So that's number 1. Number 1 is just the issue of hitting things. Number two would be the issue of, number two, percent-based mana regeneration in PvP is not the same as damage-based mana regeneration in PvP because, again, there's that gearing change that happens, right? Not the same as damage done. At all, especially since bubble shields on the paladins become much more prevalent. So the bubble shield issue that I showcased suddenly becomes significantly more of a factor. I'm just going to go through the list and we'll talk about the totality of the problem when we get there. Because I cannot stress how bad the totality of the problem is. Number three, opportunity cost issue. It should be really becomes a problem for SOM, Seal of Martyrdom in PvP. No such issue for Shamanistic Rage. So, in PvP, having to choose between Horn of Lordaeron or more appropriately between Divine Storm and Seal of Martyrdom is a huge difference, right? It's also opportunity costed against existing seals. So it's like, do I go Seal of Command, Divine Storm? Do I go Seal of Righteousness, a Divine Storm? Do I go Seal of Righteousness, Seal of Martyrdom? Horde of Lordaeron is absolutely amazing for Art of War. Am I taking Art of War? Am I not taking Art of War? There's massive opportunity costs for Seal of Martyrdom. So only half the paladins running around will actually be using Seal of Martyrdom. The vast majority of them will probably be using the Divine Storm or other things. Meanwhile, Shamanistic Rage has no opportunity cost here whatsoever. She's opportunity cost against nothing. There isn't even another good rune slot take that might think you to take this over something else. So, for example, if Shamanistic Rage was opportunity costed against, Overload, then I could be making an argument for why Shamanistic Rage should be this powerful, because Overload is that powerful. But as it stands, she's opportunity costed against basically nothing. She's a 20% damage reduction on a 1-minute cooldown for 15 seconds. So she effectively protects you against burst attacks. She essentially heals you when you push button, and then she basically gives you 75% of your mana bar back while giving a shit ton of mana back to everyone within 40 yards. What the fuck am I looking at? All that for push button with no opportunity costs. Are you out of your goddamn mind? So there's no opportunity cost there. Like, what the hell? All right, number 4. Horde versus Alliance in Battlegrounds, and this is part of the totality of the problem. Okay, I'm just going to do number 5. Number 5, the mana regeneration of Shamanistic Rage is objectively insane even on a 1v1 basis in PvP. So even on a 1v1 basis in PvP, Shamanistic Rage means that the shaman cannot go right? They can't go with this damn thing on a 1-minute cooldown. They can't do it. Physically cannot run out of mana. They might run out of mana and be sitting there with their dick in their hand for maybe a grand total of 10 seconds before they suddenly regenerate 75% of their fucking mana back again, and oh, by the way, heal themselves, because that's essentially what a 20% damage reduction does. Holy shit. So I'll be fighting these shamans, these Ellie shamans as a paladin 1v1, and we literally, properly geared paladin, with fire damage reduction, and we can't kill each other. Like, why? Because I've judged Seal of Wisdom on him. I'm using a one-handed weapon. I'm regenerating mana like a fucking god. I'm using Seal of Martyrdom. I'm just regenerating mana like a fiend. But I have to work for a living to do it. I have to physically sit on top of this jackass and try to beat the crap out of him. And all Shaman has to do is push button every minute, and they regenerate 75% of their mana. Fuck you. Alright, so that's insane. But here's the real kicker. Here's the one that just makes me go, holy crap. Are you fucking retarded? What did you do to this game? Are you insane? Fuck you. Is number 4. So, Horde vs. Alliance in Battlegrounds, specifically, PvP, their primary weakness of Horde is supposed to be that they have mana issues, commonly referred to by the PvP community as sustained fights. Horde, traditionally in PvP, are not supposed to be good at sustained fighting. This is important because they have access to a hell of a lot more purges than the Alliance side does, and they're a hell of a lot more bursty than the Alliance side is traditionally, right? Because they have a bursting Elemental Shamans. The Elemental Shamans are magic dealing, ranged, bursting class, and they also purge the crap out of things, which means Horde traditionally are mana inefficient, but they will kill motherfuckers extremely quickly. So what Horde really has to do is they have to jump on the enemy, and they have to wipe the enemy as quickly as possible. They have to sit and they have to drink to recover their mana and then rinse and repeat. If they ever get into a sustained fight with the Alliance, mana issue means that they eventually lose that sustained fight, because Paladin mana efficiency and cleansing is absolutely insane in Classic World of Warcraft. Okay? That's supposed to be the weakness of Horde versus Alliance. However, if you've actually played in Battlegrounds, what you'll notice is if there's enough Shamans on the enemy team and they're taking Shamanistic Rage, that this completely flips and inverts itself. So you'll notice that the Alliance has mana issues and has to sit down and drink, whereas the Horde basically get to just constantly run around the battlefield, and forever they have enough mana. I almost never see Horde sitting down and drinking, which is a baffling sight to me. I haven't been able to, this entire time, I haven't been able to figure out why that I haven't seen the Horde having fucking mana issues, because they're supposed to have mana issues. They're nuking the shit out of us. They're using spells left, right, and center. They should need to fucking drink, but they never do. They just keep fucking killing you. I'm willing to bet that if you actually looked up data on the side of Blizzard, okay, and you looked up like Warsong Gulch matches that had more than 50% of the players, so like 5 Shamans, 50% of the Warsong Gulch match was Shamans, that they have almost 100% win rate. It probably gets worse for Arathi Basin. So about 40% of the players in Arathi Basin are Shamans. Horde probably has a 100% win rate. And the reason for this is probably purely due to Shamanistic Rage. It's the fact that the Horde they can just blah into the enemy, and then they don't have to drink. They just literally get to mount up at like half life and half mana and run to the next objective to defend this or defend that. And they just, because they're just going to forever never have mana issues. Meanwhile, and I've been this in multiple times, the Alliance will fight super hard. They'll eventually kill everybody and take like farm or lumber mill or something like that, or a blacksmith, and then everybody has to stop and drink. So we have to, because we can't kill ourselves, right? There's no suicide button like in Rust or something. Like, we're all, like, half-life and, like, as hell. So we have to sit there for, like, 40 seconds and drink before we can get up and mount again. Do you have any idea how bad that is compared to how the shaman life looks like? I've learned that in Warsong Gulch, when I'm holding the flag, that I should, the best place to be is below the Alliance graveyard by the Rejuvenation Hut. Why is this? It's because at least it gives Alliance a chance to compete mana-wise with the fucking Horde. Holy shit, they don't have mana issues. What are you doing? Yeah, so that's the totality of the issue in PvP. It's the fact that because there's no opportunity cost specifically, I really think it's an opportunity cost issue here. And it's probably also an opportunity cost issue in raiding as well. It's because since there's no opportunity cost whatsoever, let me just turn on, let me turn this off. Let me pause the video. Let me pull up, yeah. All right, we're back. Let's look at this thing. Tools, gear planner, shaman, orc. Okay, cool. Bada bing, bada boom. SoD phase 3 talents. Okay, let's look at this opportunity cost really fast here. Okay. So you have Ancestral Guidance, which everybody says sucks for the next 10 seconds. 25% of your damage is converted to 25% of your damage is converted to healing on up to 3 party members, and 100% of your healing is converted to damage on the next on the target of your next flame shock. No idea. On paper that says that should be amazing, but nobody takes it, and every shaman I've talked to said that this sucks balls. Earth Shield is really good, although nobody ever takes it because Shamanistic Rage is way fucking better. And then, of course, Way of Earth is your tanking rune. So you'll see that there's no opportunity cost with Shamanistic Rage whatsoever, which means if you're a shaman and you're in PvP, you're like, I guess I'll take Shamanistic Rage because it gives me infinite fucking mana. And it also gives everybody else within 40 yards basically a shit ton of fucking mana. We're not going to have mana issues. Yay! Meanwhile, if I go over here to like Paladin, for example, but if I click Paladin, I don't think that's going to work. Tools, Gear Planner, Paladin, Dwarf. All right, cool. And then we'll go talents. Sweet. Let's look at Seal of Martyrdom, right? So Seal of Martyrdom, as stated, wow, Internet, are you okay? Thank you. It's Divine Storm is here? What the fuck? Horn of Lordaeron is here? What the fuck? And then Seal of Martyrdom replaces your existing seal, which means what the fuck? This is opportunity cost hell, basically, right? All of these are things I want to take in PvP. And in PvE as well, to an extent, right? Horde of Lordaeron is fucking insane. This thing is amazing. Seal of Martyrdom is also really good and amazing. Divine Storm, holy shit, please, yes, Divine Storm. So I'm in opportunity cost hell here. Okay, what if that's not what you're comparing it to? What if you're comparing it to Guided by the Gay? Each time you hit a target with your melee weapon, you gain 5% of your maximum mana per 3 seconds for 15 seconds. Okay, cool, yeah. Let's pull out a calculator and see if that even remotely comes close. Let's see if somebody at Blizzard decided that this was the fucking thing that it was supposed to be compared to, as opposed to Seal of Martyrdom, in case I'm wrong. Right? Yes? Okay, so 5, let's see. So what is that? 5% of my maximum mana. I need 15 divided by 3. 15 times 4 divided by 3 equals 20 times 5. Yeah, 100. Okay, so basically what this is saying is that this Guided by the Light, note it requires me to still hit fucking something. I don't just press button. I actually have to hit something. But while this fucking thing is active, what this is telling me is that every 60 seconds I will regenerate 100% of my mana bar. Whereas Shamanistic Rage, you know, she basically gives you a damage reduction, effectively fucking heals you, protects you from fucking burst damage, and she's front-loaded as well. I mean, you can use it twice in the first 60 seconds. You don't have to hit any fucking thing. Yeah, it only gives you 75% of mana, and it gives everybody else around you mana, but I mean, maybe this one's better in a 1v1. Fuck you. Until you read this, right, where it's like, oh, by the way, all your healing is reduced by, mana effectiveness is reduced by 50%. Go fuck yourself. So obviously this is not a comparison. But then you look at the opportunity cost. Ha-ha! And you're like, Art of War, yeah, Sacred Shield, yeah, there's not a paladin in the entire fucking game that doesn't take one of these two abilities under any circumstances. PV, are you a healer in a raid? You're taking Sacred Shield. Are you the tank in the raid? You're taking Art of War. Are you a DPS in the raid? You're taking Art of War. Are you in PvP? Well, you're taking either Sacred Shield or you're taking Art of War. You're not taking fucking Guided by the Light, because you can't fucking heal yourself, and you sure as hell can't heal anything else. You'll have mana, but what the fuck are you going to do with it, right? You have mana that you can't spend. That's what the fuck this thing does, and it certainly doesn't give everybody else around you mana. So anyways, this is some of the worst game design I've ever seen. Let's just do an in conclusion here really fast, right? So in conclusion, if the goal of this redesign of Shamanistic Rage was to put them on par with the amount of mana regeneration that paladins can theoretically do under raiding conditions, you've already done fucked up. Right? Because all this is going to do is give Horde damn near infinite mana, whereas they're going to have like 3 to 4 times, yeah, about 2 to 3 times more mana to play with under PvE circumstances than the Alliance will. And under PvP circumstances, they're going to have something like 8 or 9 times more mana to work with than the Alliance does. It also guards against their one and only traditional weakness in group-based PvP. Now, the reason why I'm actually making this video and I'm so fucking pissed off, holy balls, is what the fuck is going to happen when we go into Alterac Valley? Who the fuck here can predict what's going to happen when we go into Alterac Valley in a 40-man raid context? Can anyone do any predictions? No, anybody at all? Does it take a rocket scientist to understand that in a 40-man raid environment, PvP, the Horde are just always, forever going to have full mana bars? They're going to have full mana bars in raid. You don't even see this shit in retail, I don't think. They're going to forever be 100% full on mana. You might see them at 90% every once in a while. You might see a Horde that drops to 90% mana, but as a general rule, they're all going to be 100% mana, whereas the Alliance are just going to have, they're just going to and be forced to fucking suicide into the Horde. Terrible game design. Terrible, awful, no good, what the fuck are you thinking game design? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, so how to fix this? You need to move this rune someplace else and put it in an area where it has serious opportunity costs. Like that's the only real way. I understand why this rune exists in the game. I'm not entirely against its existence in the game. But dear fucking God, does it need to be opportunity costed? Because without the opportunity cost element, every shaman just takes this rune, and that's the big problem. So for example, let's go back to let's think about 40-man raids here for a second, right? So in 40-man raids, whether it be in a battleground or it be in a PvE context, the Horde are going to have infinite mana. Other thing I forgot to mention is that it's a minor thing where it's like Judgment of Wisdom. Healers can't really hit the boss to gain mana back from Judgment of Wisdom, but that's neither here nor there. When you look at a raid context, right? Because there's no opportunity cost with this rune whatsoever. In a 40-man raid, a raid might take 10 fucking shamans. Because why? Because they're amazing healers and they're amazing DPS and they're also are really good at tanking. But they're definitely going to bring them for the healing and they're going to bring them for the DPS 100%. And then because there's no opportunity cost with Shamanistic Rage, everybody and their dog are going to take Shamanistic Rage. Congratulations. Every Horde raid is now going to have infinite mana in a 40-man context. Meanwhile, look what happens with Paladins. So Paladins are like, if you're coming to raid, we'd prefer you to be a healer. Okay, so and every Paladin that decides they're healing in raid cannot mana regeneration at all. Right? And other than they're not taking Seal of Martyrdom, they can't hit anything, they can't take anything that's even remote, they can't do anything the equivalent of Shamanistic Rage, which means only rep paladins are giving rage to the raid. They are slightly inferior DPSs compared to anything else that you could take, especially in a 40-man raid context, I do believe. Which means that if there were 10 paladins brought to a raid, 6 of them are probably healers and 4 of them are probably DPS. Maybe you have a 50-50 split, but most Alliance raids aren't even going to try to take 10 fucking paladins because at that point you just don't have room for them anymore. Like, let's say there's like 4 melee groups, right? Okay, well, you need at least 4 holy paladins to put in each of these melee groups. Maybe now you have 5 melee groups, and when you want 5 holy paladins in there, each of those holy paladins will be taking Horn of Lordaeron. They sure as hell won't be taking Seal of Martyrdom, which is one of the reasons why they're a holy paladin and not a rep paladin in this context, because you can't have both. Congratulations, you technically don't need any more paladins in your raid anymore. You don't need any more paladins. You have access to all the paladin buffs that you possibly need, and you brought the better of the two specs. You brought the healing paladins. The only possible reason to bring more paladins, let's say you bring like 5 more paladins, you'd want them to be ret, you'd want them to have Seal of Martyrdom, and to be perfectly honest with you, Seal of Martyrdom might not be the best DPS seal. I'm not joking when I say that there's a strong possibility that fast one-hander, spell power, Seal of Righteousness will be a superior DPS spec to Seal of Martyrdom, Seal Twisting, all that stuff. Really, really terrible, awful, no good game design. But really, it's under PvP circumstances where I'm just like, someone lost the plot. Somebody definitely lost the plot. Move this fucking rune somewhere where it's opportunity costed. Dear fucking God, for the love of God. Like, what is this shit? Where do I think it belongs? I guess that's a good question. Let me pause the video. Cool. Because it is one thing to say, do this, Blizzard, blah, 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 blah. It's another thing to, like, get up off my ass and actually try to figure out where the hell this thing should be moved to. Like, I don't disagree with the design of it. It's fine. I just disagree with the fact that it's not opportunity costed. So if I run into a battleground, there's 10 fucking shamans. They're going to have 10 shamanistic rages. And I'm just like, well, they didn't take shamanistic rage. They're stupid. I also imagine if they didn't take shamanistic rage, their fellow players are yelling at them. Like, what do you mean you didn't take shamanistic rage, you fucking moron? Give me mana. I think it should go somewhere with Overload. Static Shock, Rolling Thunder, Riptide, Overcharge. You want to put it somewhere where it's not specifically where it's interfering with DPS. Why is this? Well, because Shamanistic Rage, giving you mana, specifically, it needs to be opportunity. How do I put this? If you would think it might be opportunity costed here with like Earth Shield. Like, let's say we put it here and it's opportunity costed against Riptide, against Overcharge, against a Rolling Thunder, Thunder, and Static Shock, right? Almost every class if you're PvPing as a shaman, you're basically stupid if you didn't take Riptide, right? Instant healing ability. It's a hot. You're taking Riptide. If you put Shamanistic Rage here by contrast, and you force them to choose between Riptide and Shamanistic Rage, you're basically forcing them to choose between infinite mana, burst damage protection, and effective healing in Shamanistic Rage, or just healing from Riptide, right? And so very quickly they're going to be like, oh, well, I'm just going to take Shamanistic Rage anyways because it gives me mana to heal myself, which means I can better heal myself. When I click button, it effectively heals me through the damage reduction for the next 15 seconds, which is, basically the same as pushing Riptide. It's front-loaded, so I get to use it twice within the first minute. And it's going to give everybody else around me mana, which means that they can better heal me. So you're just not doing DPS. You still get to maximize your DPS. There isn't really an opportunity cost here. That's why its position here when it's opportunity cost against Earth Shield isn't all that great, because you start doing the math on it and you're like, well, they both heal me and this just gives me more mana to do more damage and more healing, so we're going with Shamanistic Rage. It's a very easy choice. Meanwhile, if you force them to pick between like Mental Dexterity or Tidal Waves or Burn and Shamanistic Rage. If Shamanistic Rage was right here, it would be a pretty good and pretty decent, because these have huge opportunity costs, basically on par with what the Paladins have opportunity cost wise. Another good one would be Overload, forcing them to choose between Elemental Shaman, an Elemental Shaman between Overload or Dual Weapon Specialization. Well, that might not be good, because actually that's not a bad idea. Ooh, that's actually a really good idea. Okay, yeah. Strip Dual Weapon Specialization out of here. So you take Dual Weapon Specialization, you pull it out of there, and you put it here instead, and you replace Shamanistic Rage with the dual weapon specialization. Like if you switch these back and forth. Okay, so now the healing shamans have to choose between Overload and Shamanistic Rage, which is a very easy choice for them. They will choose Elemental Overload over Shamanistic Rage in any day of the week, basically. Actually, no, that's not an easy choice for them at all. I take it back. So that's a reasonably hard choice for a healer to decide, especially under raiding circumstances, right? Which mimics the opportunity cost for Paladin, because Overload is what's going to allow you to parse, whereas Shamanistic Rage is what's going to allow you to be much more useful for your raid as a healer, right? And it's the exact same issue under PvP. One is giving you the mana to spam heals, whereas the other one is giving you better healing in general. So if we swapped out Dual Wield Specialization and Shamanistic Rage, that would be perfectly fine. And then you're forcing... Yeah. I don't mind that one. That one's fine. Molten Blast, Lava Lash, Lava Burst, Water Shield. You can put Shamanistic Rage over here as well. Not the worst thing in the world. But it would just mean that no one's taking Water Shield anymore, that they're just taking Shamanistic Rage. I don't know. But yeah, it definitely needs to be moved. The position here, the lack of opportunity cost is clinically... It's just really bad. Power Surge. Flame Shock deals damage. 5% chance to reset cooldown. Not the worst idea in the world to put it here either. There's absolutely nothing here for a healer. So putting Shamanistic Rage here is not the worst thing in the world. Just means that every healer and their dog would take Shamanistic Rage now, and they'd be actually healing shamans would be perfectly happy if you put Shamanistic Rage here, whereas DPS shamans would suffer from you putting Shamanistic Rage here. And that's basically important. So basically what I'm trying to observe is that somebody needs to suffer and not want to take Shamanistic Rage. That either needs to be your healing shamans are disincentivized to take Shamanistic Rage, or your DPS paladins are not paladins, shamans are disincentivized to take Shamanistic Rage. Because that's the only effective way to balance it out, both in PvP and in PvE, if you don't want to rewrite the tooltip. Like literally change the spell back to something that it was before. Why? Because again, in the raiding context, less than half your paladins are taking Seal of Martyrdom, whereas every shaman is taking Shamanistic Rage, so that's not equal by any stretch of the imagination. In PvP, the exact same thing plays out. Even fewer paladins are taking Seal of Martyrdom. They can't effectively make use of Seal of Martyrdom because they have to get into melee and they're just dying horribly half the time. Feel free to, when you put the damage reduction in the game, it's just going to make it worse, right? Because push button, regenerate 75% of your fucking mana is not the same as, oh, I need to actually damage these motherfuckers, and now they have damage reduction. Oh, great. Or I actually have to take damage from the damage I do. And if that gets double damage reduction, that's going to be even dumber, right? So let's say I used to hit for 100 damage. That gets reduced to 80 damage, so now I regenerate less mana from Seal of Martyrdom. But if my Seal of Martyrdom damage is also getting reduced by 30%, so there's a double dipping, now we're really reducing it. Just shut the fuck up. It's not the same as push button in raid, everyone regenerates mana. Ugh. Anyways, I'm going to end the video here, and Dave's fault. This really fucking pissed me off, because as you saw, I've been doing a lot of Battlegrounds, and I just could not figure out why I never saw the Horde needing to drink. They just blow the crap out of you. They're spamming spells into oblivion. They just don't have to drink. And I'm like, why am I never seeing Horde sitting down drinking? This doesn't make any sense. And then I got into a 1v1 fight, and I was like, oh, did they change Shamanistic Rage? Because that's not a mana potion. What the fuck is that? And yeah, sure enough, whoever wrote that is clinically fucking retarded. Thank you for that. Whatever they were trying to do, they failed at. Yeah, like literally whatever they tried to do, they failed at. We need it for PvE. Congratulations, you fucked up. We needed it for PvP. Congratulations, you fucked up. Oh, we needed it for I don't fucking know. Yeah, you fucked up. It used to be decently well written, believe it or not, because it wasn't just push button regenerate mana. It was actually push button and regenerate mana, but based upon spell power or based upon your attack power, which means that under raid circumstances it was more powerful than under PvP circumstances, because you have to gear more defensively in PvP. But then they changed it and just decided to completely fuck PvP in the ass. It's just like, I don't know what the hell. As you can see, I'm very pissed off to learn this after weeks of PvP. Very, 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 very angry, and I decided to make a raging hate video. So, yay. Anyways, I made a video here, and Deus Volt, boys.